Hello, good morning. Today is Thursday. My name is, Wednesday actually. My name is Kwame Owusu Danso. Welcome to Good Morning Africa. Today actually is the 14th of April 2021, and I'm super excited to come your way. Apologies for bringing the show to you a little late. I had a little challenge with my vehicle, so Justice Appiah had to come and pick me up. That is why I came in rather too late. So I apologize to you for the late start of the show. However, let me extend a heartfelt gratitude to my panelists for coming in as early as always. Thank you very much, Dr. Rashid Pelpo. You've always been here on time, and I'm super elated about it. Apologies for keeping you here.
No problem.
Thank you very much. Dr. Kwakumato, likewise. Thank you very kindly, and I apologize.
In fact, I was even late, so don't worry.
Okay. Dr. Mazuka, I know you came early. You always come early, like Dr. Rashid Pelpo. So apologies to you.
Oh, don't worry, that's fine.
Yeah, and to the viewers, let me apologize to you for also staying behind your TV, waiting for me to start at 8 o'clock, and I couldn't start at 8 o'clock because of an unforeseen event that occasioned. So I apologize to you greatly. Let me now, having said that, bring your attention to the topics that we've chosen for our conversation this morning. We're going to be touching on an African story. We're going to be touching on, of course, local stories as well, issues that are of relevance to you and are of relevance to me as well. It is very important, practically so, for us to be very expressive about things that must augur well for our development, must actually push the developmental drive that we are seeking to have. And so it's very important that we touch on these matters here on the show. Nearly 1 million people facing severe hunger in Mozambique. Also, dialogue on illegal mining opens today. I don't know whether we are going to be able to deal with this illegal mining menace. It's a problem. We can't deal with illegal mining just as we can't uproot the canker of corruption. So, I mean, Danso, John Jinapo blames crisis on mismanagement by government. Government cracks as Bui Power Boss exposes Gridco. That's on the front page of the Informer newspaper. It's also in relation to Danso, so we will discuss the John Jinapo blames crisis on mismanagement by government pari passu with government cracks as Bui Power Boss exposes Gridco. And when we get the time, and if we get the time, we will deal with the others. But also, I'm finding a very interesting headline here on the front page of the Daily Graphic that says $80 million steel plant opens, biggest in West Africa, creates 2,000 jobs. Creates 2,000 jobs. So I don't know whether government is going to put this under one district, one factory. We will get into all of that, but I think it's imperative for us to touch on this matter. So we'll touch on this matter. I've introduced my panelists. Here are the topics. Let's go to Mozambique, Dr. Mazuka. Let me start with you. 1 million people facing severe hunger in Mozambique. I think that it is not a novelty. I mean, it's more like a cliche now. Yeah. When you hear these things, it's just, okay, we're back again. Yeah. Let's hear from you. Yeah.
Good morning to the cherished viewers of ours, and thanks for the opportunity. Special good morning to His Eminence, the National Chief Imam, Sheikh Dr. Osman Nuh Owusu. We wish him and the Muslim community a peaceful and blissful Ramadan. Ya Imam al-Mubajjal, kullu aam wa antum bi khair. Yes, I mean, this, as you have rightly said, this is not news. But today I want to tackle the news element of the story here. Clearly, I don't think this is the original report by any African newspaper. I do not think so. Even if it is the original report by an African newspaper,
the caption would have been different.
The caption would have been different. So definitely, it is in line with the editorial agenda of the Western media. In this context, I'm using media as plural, that do not seem to want to have anything good about Africa. This is not to say that they are wrong, because their assumption about bad governance, bad fortunes, and all kinds of negativity about Africa are reflected by our own leadership. So we are not just blaming them. We are blaming them as those preparing the stage, and blaming their preppers for dancing to the tune of their paymasters. So clearly, I mean, why should Africa be featured anytime at all there is hunger, anytime at all there is retardation, That is unfortunate. But that also tells us to try as much as possible to cherish self-reliance and avoid dependency mentality. It tells us that there's the need for African leadership to invest heavily on agricultural sciences. It is unfortunate that in modern society, a country can witness the starvation of nearly a million people. It is very unfortunate. When we have the modern technology that can simplify agricultural products. So this is a lesson to all African governments to invest heavily in agriculture. This time round, we must shift from the traditional agricultural practices, the hoe and the likes, to agricultural technology, modern technology, that will maximize food production. I think we can do it. If the Arab world, which is largely a desert, can produce food, fresh food, if Dubai, which was just yesterday an infertile land, can now become the headquarters of food, fresh food, I believe any other African country can do it. I do not want to say much about this topic. What I am only urging, what I am saying is that African governments should see this as an opportunity to maximize their investment in agriculture and to ensure food security. Because food insecurity is a bedrock of national insecurity. Once people are hungry, they are angry and therefore can act in a way that will be counterproductive to national security. And for us to have responsible government and meaningful life on the continent of Africa, we must ensure food security.
Food security.
That will guarantee national security.
Absolutely. Thank you very kindly. Dr. Kokomauta, let's hear from you, sir. You celebrated your 10th anniversary last week, and your son celebrated his 9th, your daughter, 9th birthday.
Oh. We all join you. Happy birthday to our daughter.
Last week and this week,
Charlie, that's why today your face is shining like that.
Oh, chairman.
Special birthday to
Aram, yes.
A special commendation to Aram's mother.
Yeah. For doing more of the work.
Thank you, sir.
You only assisted, and then she scored.
Sharp. You understand the principle. These are the basic principles.
Oh yes, you can understand that women are always in control.
I'm telling you. like my mentor told me that, look, young man, you are getting married, eh? The norm is that you are the head of the house, but the manager is the wife. She manages everything. When you wake up, just go and look for money, bring it home. The manager will take care of it.
That's all.
And that principle has never failed me. You know?
Right.
That is by the way.
Right. Yeah.
Kwame.
Yes, sir.
I think, and also my greetings to our the co-panelists. I mean, it's always been. I've missed this program for about 2 weeks now. Yes, and today I'm so happy to be in the midst of Honorable and then Dr. Maruzuk. Yes. I mean, the issue of conflict in Africa. Yeah, I wasn't surprised when you mentioned that it's no news. But you see, as a continent, whenever I hear some of these issues, some of these conflicts, then I can only resonate it with resources.
Absolutely.
The Western world will always cash on our resources, disintegrate our fronts, and then use our own people to disintegrate the very, very walls that we have built around ourselves, and then cash on every resource. Kwame, what has happened to Libya? after the Western and the Eastern Bloc came together to kill Gaddafi, after killing Gaddafi, what happened? Somebody will say that they didn't come to kill Gaddafi, but Gaddafi's own people killed him.
Absolutely.
In the name of, we are looking for democracy, we want to change leadership. What is leadership about? Provide what your people need. Apart from there's nothing about it. I don't see the essence of leadership. If you cannot provide jobs for the youth, if you cannot provide, look, Kwame, sorry to say, but you see, we've gotten to a stage where democracy has become the norm of the day. With its numerous disadvantages and challenges, we've accepted and adopted it. So we have to look at the next level of ensuring that the limitations of democracy to the development of Africa will be addressed. Why am I saying this? Mozambique, as we know, is another naturally endowed country with gold, bauxite, and marbles. And these are people who after their independence from Portugal, have been struggling due to leadership, poor leadership. Now, what is happening now? It is ISIS and then Al-Shabaab fighting over some discovery, oil. It all boils down to this. We have been fighting Al-Shabaab and ISIS for over 2 decades now as Africa. So the AU, what have they done all this while? Currently in Europe, do we have such movements in Europe? In the US? They are too serious for that. But I can tell you that they are not clean in the nemesis of Africa. Some of these blocks are those who finance this youth. They give them, they empower them to destabilize the development of Africa. So these groups are the real enemies. But you see, they are enemies we have created within. When the African leader perceives the youth, the natural developers of our continent, as a liability, then some people will use them as assets to destabilize the front. This Al-Shabaab, why haven't we, been able to unravel the mystery behind their operations? Day in, day out, year in, year out, they are able to reassemble, engage the youth, because they don't have foreigners coming in, but they use the same youth in the various countries. We sit as a continent, look at them without professing any proper solution to unravel the mystery behind the destructive associations like Al-Shabaab and ISIS. In the Middle East, where some of them were formed, they've been able to destabilize their front. But for Africa, they are living like citizens with the impunity to orchestrate mayhem on, vulnerable citizens. You see, if various governments in the African states will not perceive the youth as an instrument or as instrument to development, then Kwame, we will always continue to sit here every now and then, and as part of our topics we should be discussing, which we should bring something good on our tables. We will always be talking about lamenting over ISIS and Al-Shabaab. Boko Haram is just closer to us. It is just a matter of time that they will escalate their operations. Our security is not so much superb that we can resist them. Maybe they haven't gotten any interest in Ghana yet. But if we perceive the security of Nigeria as that of Ghana and the other neighboring African countries, Boko Haram would have been defeated by now. because they are man-made creation. They were created by men. And all the men who created them, they are there. We know them. Are we willing to unsettle this, bad bandit of unscrupulous nation wreckers? No. What even pained me most is the fact that we are not trying to emulate what the EUs and the other blocs are doing, but continuously we seem to be lamenting after every conflict, like we are doing this morning. In fact, it's not a topic that I wish we could discuss. It doesn't excite me a bit.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's really...
A bit. The last time we were talking about Ethiopia, and then the next moment, the small country with all the resources, but people are struggling. Just because one man just wants power. And that power, I don't have any problem with somebody, fighting for power. Use that power to enrich the youth, your people. Because you see, we are always talking about the youth, because it has been observed that they either will serve as agents of development or a serious national security threat to every nation. Because they have all the exuberance, they have the strength, unlike some of us who are now heading towards, the maker. Kwame, we are not young like that, too. Yes. So those days I could easily jump from the first step, first floor of our house. But today I won't try it. I won't try it because my joints are so weak now. These are people who can do a lot, but we perceive them to be some of the weakest in our quest to develop this continent. So African leaders must start thinking about how to empower the youth in order to destabilize these enemies. When I say enemies, I'm talking about the foreign influence who are only interested in the natural resources of Africa. Until then, Kwame, we'll continue lamenting.
We'll continue talking about these matters.
Yeah.
Let me come to you, Dr. Rashid Purple, on this subject matter.
Yeah, good morning, my brother, and good morning to the Upper Westerners and especially West Central people.
This is really still promoting as if you are going for elections.
I see. Well, this has brought a big question about Africa once more. Africa, especially Sub-Saharan Africa, hosts a huge number of poor citizens. Nigeria is the richest country in Africa. Nigeria hosts 79 million poor people. Poor people means you live below the poverty line, and that you are so poor that you can't take care of yourself. You can't earn $1 a day, even a month. Some people cannot. So people are dying, people are hungry, they can't take care of themselves, and they are suffering. Nigeria hosts 79 million human beings who are poor and can't take care of themselves. Ethiopia hosts about 28 million human beings who are poor, can't take care of themselves. Mozambique has a big problem. Because of the Islamic insurgency in the north of Mozambique, production activities are not going on there. And so the United Nations has declared that about 930 million people are facing the starvation as a result of lack of food. And this is a big concern. What is wrong with Africa? That we have everything that you can think about in the world. You go to the Democratic Republic of Congo, people are suffering. You go to the 5 countries that are making half the population of the poorest in Africa. They produce so much, they have so much there, you can't imagine it. The only place you can go in Africa and get enough cobalt, is suffering from poverty, and people are dying of hunger. So what is wrong with Africa? Is it because of our mentality, because of a curse, because of poverty, our our policies or our laws or regulations? These are things we need to ask ourselves, because this is just an example of Mozambique, but it's happening elsewhere. The five poorest countries in Africa, where lots of human beings are poor and live, Mozambique is not even one of them. Now, to discuss it means to discuss Africa. And I have always asked, is it because of our nature, our complexion, the blackness in us, or is it because of the failure of us to discipline ourselves, to regulate our lives? Is it because of the indiscipline about our lives? You can't have Ghana becoming, one of the poorest countries in Africa now. Ghana is slipping. The UN, the World Bank has come out to try to deny it. But the same World Bank has drawn Ghana out of the middle-level income country to a poor country, meaning that rather than growing forward, we are growing backwards, which is painful. The place where you can get the largest production of gold, where you can get the second largest production of, what do you call that, cocoa, a place where you have the best kind of human resource. If you come to think about Africa, everywhere a Ghanaian goes, he leaves a mark. We have great human resource, we have great capacity in, I don't know, anything that you think a country has and can grow, Ghana has it. And yet Ghana is retrogressing from the records we are seeing. So we must begin to redefine who we are. And we must begin to reconsider who a leader is. And we must begin to analyze our development tracks and see where the challenges are, so we can address them directly. Because it's painful and it's embarrassing that we can be so rich and still so poor. And it's happening everywhere else in Africa. And the most devastating thing is that Ethiopia, which is supposed to be the centerpiece of our social organization, political organization, is in this pain as well. So I think that we need to build our effort towards taking ourselves away from this pain. And we need to look at policies and how they operate. We need to enforce the laws, and we need to make sure that people obey those laws. I was just coming from Adenta on that road. You get to Medina, a place where they have banned vehicles, they have blocked the road, they have done all kinds of things because they believe that when people cross by themselves, vehicles knock them down. So government was compelled to do overhead bridges for people to walk across easily. They have abandoned them, and they're so struggling with the vehicles and cross the road, facing the dangers of being knocked down by vehicles. The police are there and using whips to cane the people, cane them, and prevent them from walking across the road so they can use the footbridge across. Why do we have to go through all this? That somebody has to beat you
before you do
the right thing.
That thing is just ridiculous.
Huh?
You can't think.
A human being going to office, he's going to sit there, he'll be one of the senior officers. By virtue of not driving a vehicle, he's insisting of being beaten so that he can use the footbridge. A university student who has finished university, who is supposed to be a light to the world, is now being beaten so that you can use the footbridge.
I don't know what's wrong with us.
That is Africa for you. So you see, we are poor because of who we are, the mentality we carry. We are poor because we don't obey the laws. We are poor because we may not even have the laws at all. And we are poor because we don't want to produce. I've had a situation where somebody who would come to me every time asking for help. One day I told him, let me construct 4 acres of land for you. I'll do it myself. Take a tractor, it will do 4 acres for you, free. I'm going to give you the seed to plant there. At the end of the year, at least you can get 20 bags of maize. You won't come to me and say you want money to go and buy bowls of maize. He looked at me and said I shouldn't draw him back. How can I be asking him to go and farm? Can you imagine that? So this is the mentality of the person who is supposed to be a poor person, that he's being drawn back if he is asked to go and farm. And that's Africa for you. Nobody wants to produce. We don't produce enough in Ghana to feed ourselves. What we do is we import almost everything. Even can you believe that? Maize, we import maize. Tomatoes, we import them. All the kinds of things we produce in Ghana here, we import them. Granules, we import them. How do we get the money? We borrow the money from the white man, bring it into the system, it moves into our pockets, then we use it to import, and then we keep being poor. The other day I was saying we were the poorest in Africa in terms of debt, not the quantity of debts, but the deficit of the debts. We are the poorest. One of the poorest in Africa. Right now, from where we have been taken to by this government, we have gotten to almost 77% of debt to total revenue.
They said it will be 80 by 2020, the end of 2021.
Yes, it will get to 80, 84 by 2021. So how do we live? It means we live by borrowing, we live by begging, we live by being poor. We can't do that. We want to ride a Benz, we want to ride a 4-wheel, but we don't want to produce the 4-wheel ourselves. No. Kwame, let me tell you something. The moment Ghana, through Safu, what's his name? Safu Kantanka, through him is trying to produce vehicles. The West finds the need for them to come and establish vehicle companies here. Because when Ghana is able to break through, other countries will do the same. So Japan has come. First it was VW through Germany. Now Japan has come to establish Toyota company. Other companies will come to stifle them off. Because our poverty is their prosperity. Our inability to produce and depend on ourselves is their ability to produce and sell to us. So we have to look at it. Nobody is making Mozambique poor. Mozambique has better lands than Japan. Japan has no lands. It's producing for the world. Mozambique is better than most of the countries that are doing well. Turkey, the land there is better. You go to the United Arab Emirates, it's all desert. They are producing. You go to Israel, it's all desert. They are producing rocky and desert. And yet, you come to Africa, we have been given this lavish land, green, and rich, with huge sought-for minerals under. And yet, every now and then, somebody declares us poor. We have no answers to that. It's high time we stop blaming the external force, the Europeans and the Americans who are defining us. It's high time we begin to define ourselves so that we don't blame anybody.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rashid Pelpo. Quick commercial break. Go for this quick commercial break to make some money. When we come back, we're not going to be touching on the dialogue on illegal mining opening today. We're also going to be touching on Danso John Jenapo blaming the crisis on the mismanagement by government or on mismanagement by government. Government cracks as Bui Power Boss exposes Gridco. That's also another story that we're going to discuss alongside the John Jenapo story. And 80 million steel plant opens biggest in West Africa. And I'm beginning to like the propaganda by Daily Graphic, really. Because if they had used the name of the company, everybody would see through it. So they just said $80 million steel plant opens biggest in West Africa. It creates 2,000 jobs. Quick commercial break. Stay with us. I shall return shortly. By MPP,
Every day, he has a drink filled with malt. Every day, he has a drink filled with malt and milk. Every day, he has a drink filled with malt, milk, and cocoa. Every day, he needs the nutritious goodness of Milo. Milo, the energy to go further. This advert is FDA approved. Every day, he looks after his brother and chases a bus. Every day he looks after his brother, chases a bus, and learns new things. Every day he looks after his brother, chases a bus, learns new things, and gets back home. Every day he looks after his brother, chases a bus, learns new things, gets back home, and helps his mom. Phew. That's why every day he needs his cup of Milo filled with the nutritious goodness of malt, milk, and cocoa. Milo, the energy to go further.
From Nestle.
This advert is FDA approved.
Back. Thank you very kindly for staying tuned into Pan-African Television. I'm getting all passionate, overly so, about the next topic we're about to discuss. $80 million steel plant opens biggest in West Africa. And let me just, with a great of respect, read a little bit of the story in order to apprise ourselves with the full facts. President Nana Danso Akufo-Addo yesterday commissioned the first phase of an $80 million steel manufacturing company under the One District, One Factory policy at Lakbleku in the Ningo Pram district in the Greater Accra region. Said to be the biggest fabrication plant in West Africa and third in Africa. The factory comes with a training school. The factory, which sits on a 100-acre plot of land, uses scrap metals collected from across the country as raw materials for the manufacture of iron rods, wire rods, and round bars. It has an installed production capacity of 250,000 tons per annum, known as B5 Plus Steel plant. It will create 2,000 direct and indirect jobs. The second phase will include an investment of $70 million with an installed capacity of 300,000 tons of mixed steel goods. Commissioning the project, President Akufo-Addo noted that it was a true reflection of the benefits of 1D1F that had created thousands of jobs and the expansion of the value addition activities in the country. He said it was gratifying that the B5 Plus steel plant was converting scrap metal gathered from across the country into building materials to feed construction industry in Ghana and the entire ECOWAS. He said the company would assist the government's agenda of import substitution, export diversification, and industrial transformation, and gave assurance of the government's continued commitment to provide strategic support for companies and enterprises operating in the country. President Akufo-Addo explained that his administration would continue, and this is the most important paragraph. Listen, President Akufo-Addo explained that his administration would continue to enhance the existing incentive framework designed to make 1D1F designated companies more competitive and sustainable. The incentives, he said, included tax holidays, import duty waivers, and interest rate subsidies, which were designed to help build the capacities and competitiveness of the enterprises and position them for greater productivity and efficiency. This is what the President Danso Akufo-Addo said when they were commissioning the expansion, and I'm using the right word for you, the expansion of B5 Plus Steel Company Limited. And this headline really is very, very misleading, because B5 Plus Company was set up in 2002 in this country. In fact, their head office has been in Ghana since 2002. So this is an expansion project that has been undertaken by the company, just to expand their operations and to, you know, what's it called? And to get a lot of raw materials from, you know, all parts of the country in order to aid in their production. And it's been captured under 1D1F. My anger, the Dr. Papepo I'm setting with you, stems from the fact that we are creating a certain impression that the company just sprang up, and that it's not been in existence, and that it's not been in operation, and that our giving the company another 5 years of tax holiday is something which is new to the governance process of this country. That giving waivers, import waivers, is something that is new, and that giving profit or subsidies is something that is new. It's not new.
No.
So on what basis are we claiming that this one is, because it is claiming to be under 1D1F, government is doing something new? Government is, what is this? This is very misleading, because they know that if they had used B5 Plus Steel Plant OP's biggest blah blah blah, Ghanaians will see through it. So they will say $80 million steel plant OP's biggest in West Africa creates 2,000 jobs, and we are misleading the good people of this country.
It's a terrible mislead. I have, as the ranking member for government assurance, we know government assured this country or that is going to do 1D1F, and so they mentioned a number of places in Greater Accra and in Central Region. So we decided to go to the places they have mentioned. Greater Accra, the first place we visited was B5, and when we got there, the greatest problem they have was that, look, we have set up this company ourselves. We want government, through their investment process, their 1D1F, to come here so that they can help us to get water. Water, because we need water a lot. It's one of our raw materials. We are unable to get water here. That's number one concern. And I promised that I was going to take it up for them. The second one was, how do we get enough government support so that we can go and borrow ourselves? We don't want money from government. Government should just give us a guarantee. We go and borrow. We don't want government to come and hand us over money. No. Guarantee us, we go and borrow the money, use it, and pay back. Those were the two demands they wanted. And government was unable to do that. I don't know, maybe now they have found the money themselves, and they have invited government to come and commission the project. They have come to play it as if it is their own effort that B Plus is where it is. It is a company that has fought its way through, that has reached where it is because of its own ingenuity, not because of government efforts at giving them anything at all. So, but that tells you the story of how government policy fails and how they play it back on the people through the media to give you an impression that the failure is success. Otherwise, why is this kind of report? And it's everywhere the same. You know, they have failed in Galamsey, for example. They are playing it back on us to give the impression that it is a success. The president mentioned it at the last meet the press, at the last meeting of Parliament, when he talked about their success in Galamsey. And you want to know, where is the success? That after all that, you see the water still colored, destroyed by Galamsey wash items in the water, a minister himself, the Minister for Environment, President Minister for Environment is crying because he says mercury is spoiling our waters and can destroy our bodies. Then the lands is spoiled. We took a trip into the lands in western region, and we were all shocked about what we saw. People from all over the country, I mean the West African sub-region, are in Ghana mining illegally. Women from Nigeria came and they are selling themselves. And the whole place is so devastated that you don't believe that we are in a regime that has decided to fight against the destruction of our lands and waters.
Why are we doing this to ourselves? Why are we deceiving ourselves? Why the deception? My issue is, why the deception? Why can't you come clean and clear?
You see,
this is what it is.
No, they won't do that.
I'm trying my best. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. I'm doing that. But I'm faced with these challenges. Bear with me. Why can't we do? Why?
KOD.
Why? What is this?
Let me tell you something. We have a government in a country that is largely illiterate, those who are literate, uneducated, those who are uneducated, those who are educated wouldn't mind what happens. So on all the streams, they are enjoying it. Largely uneducated, those who are educated, not informed, those who are informed don't mind, and so they go on. Very well educated people who claim that they are supporting NPP will not criticize the party for all the ills they are into. Over borrowing, spending the money, they don't know where the money is going, leaving the land to illegal miners to destroy, and everything you think that will suit this country appears to be doing the wrong thing. So they are enjoying it. They are enjoying a docile media, a media that is condescending, that can be bought, paid for, that with all the things they're doing, they won't report bad about them. And you sat here and complained, that John Mahama did so well, but for the sake of collective support, unmeasured support for MPP, they still see him not to have done anything good. So that's the kind of thing. Nkrumah did everything that he could do for this country. They criticize him. They criticize the Kosombo. They criticize the motorway. They criticize everything.
And yet you are benefiting from those ones.
And then ban him. They brought his books, banned them, and did everything that will obliterate his memory. And that's fine. So I think that we need to reason up as Ghanaians, as Africans. We need to rise and change the circumstances here.
This would have been, I don't have a problem. And I think Dr. Kokumato, even when we went for break, was saying that, but even if it is not under 1D, 1F, assuming without admitting that it wasn't under 1D, 1F, and it's still a company that has been built in this country, which has the potency of employing 2,000 people, is it bad? And I said, no, it's not bad. But just as that company, building that company is not bad, sustaining the sugar factory is also not bad. As we speak, and I don't know whether you drive through the streets of Accra in the evenings and things like that. I live here very late sometimes. I live here sometimes 12, 1 a.m., 2 a.m.
What?
Yeah.
Oh.
But, I don't know whether you see those boys who clean your windscreens at night and who sell jackknives at night and who sell tasers at night. And because we have not done anything to create the environment for them to properly get jobs to do. If the sugar factory was in operation, why wouldn't they, go and, like you said, our human resource is the best around the world. And yet these people are selling in the streets, and we don't have the foresight to know that when it implodes, these people will be the first to attack those of us who are able to drive small cars.
What is happening? They are killing people on our streets. They are already started in a way that you won't recognize that it has started. It is when the whole history is written that you see how it started, how an MP is killed on the way, how subsequently deaths are occurring. When the whole story is put together, you see the picture, happening. So things are getting bad. And they are getting bad not just because is MPP. But just because we are Ghanaians who are losing sight of a future that will define us. And MPP is only facilitating it by being unconcerned and more interested in borrowing money and taking a lot of money out of it onto themselves. You know, so we are in a terrible situation.
I think we'll have to have this conversation again, you know, because I'll come to you again.
Yeah.
Let me come to Dr. Marzuki. And I see you are very quiet. I'm sure you're reminiscing about my you know, latter conversation with Dr. Rashid Pelpu. I'll find a way of making you comment on that as well. Yesterday I was in a conversation with an MPP. I don't want to mention his name in my office. He's a young guy. He said, Kwame, I'm worried because we are borrowing so much and we forget that it is our generation and the ones before us who will come and suffer the brunt of bad decisions that have been taken by these leaders. He said it in my office yesterday in the evening. He's a lawyer.
He's true.
And it's a very progressive thing. I said, Kwame, I worry. And sometimes when I complain, people say, oh, no, you are from... Well, he said it, that we don't even trust you because of where you're coming from. I'll tell you where he's coming from later. You know, and that's the problem. So we play back those cards, and people are not able to express themselves the way they want to, even if they find that the thing is derailing. They cannot talk about it. But let me just start with you on this B5 thing, and then we... Look at the other. I made you read it, right?
Of course, I've seen it. I've seen it. Yes. Well, as intellectuals or students of history, students of political science, students of governance, we definitely look at issues from different perspectives. And I understand you. In fact, I respect your opinion when you argue that the headline is misleading. I want to be fair to the Daily Graphic. In as much as the headline may be misleading to you, the Daily Graphic as a newspaper has its own editorial policy. And the editorial policy of the newspaper influences the headlines and the contents of stories and feature articles. Even if the feature article is written by an outsider, the news editor still reserves the right to change the headlines and portions of the content of the feature article to suit the editorial policy of the newspaper. Based on that, I do not largely have any problem with the headline. But beyond that, it is not, what worries me is not even the headline, but the content of the story. The content of the story in such a way that it brings hope. However, above the hope is hopelessness. And it is important for all of us to understand that this is not something unique. It is part of the general defective political culture in this country, where issues of patriotism are rather given political colors. We seem not to appreciate the dichotomy between excessive partisanship and realistic patriotism. And that is why governing political parties continue to pursue government projects largely in the name of their political parties, not in the name of the government. It is important for all of us to understand that it is not bad for a company like this to be established. I don't see it as anything bad. It is not. It is in the interest of the state that such a company should be established. And if it is true that we'll have 2,000 jobs for 2,000 people, that should be a credit to the government and to the state. You and I, who are concerned about the development of the youth, about the future of the youth, should be celebrating. That is if it is the case. But the problem here is the mismatch between the so-called new company and the indifference to the existing ones. In fact, the mismatch here is that we seem to be using the names of our political parties to establish new companies, even if they are just on paper, then to be putting resources in the development and the revival of the existing companies. For instance, this government has come to power, and of course, the first phase of it was witnessed 4 years ago, right? And we are witnessing the second phase. This is the first year of the second phase. I want to believe that before it came to power, it had seen uncompleted government projects.
Absolutely.
It had seen the need to revive existing but needy companies. This is not to say that we are dictating to the government. No. But I still want to believe that yes, the government has the right, has the resources to establish the new one. But it will be in the interest of national unity and state development to continue the existing ones, even if those ones had been initiated by an earlier government that you didn't support, an earlier government opposed to you. I believe that what is more important is not the struggle to gain, but the burden to sustain. And if we are able to cultivate this political culture, definitely we will minimize the defects of partisanship and maximize the beauty of patriotism. So it is important for all of us to understand that it is not what has been said. And again, what has been said is just a matter of intentionality. Beyond the intentionality, we also need to look at the honesty to actualize the words. Do we have the resources to actualize what has been said? Do we have the political will to ensure that this company succeeds? Do we think that we are honest enough to ensure that the success of this company will be in the interest of the state? Are we sure that this company or this project is not only going to be part of the political rhetorics and the propaganda of the ruling party? Are we equally sure that the opposition will be fair enough to support the success of this project? These are the questions we must answer.
I think for a company that started in 2002, there's no gainsaying the fact that that support will be given in the event that the MPP is out of power whenever, right?
Sure.
I think so. But I tried to provoke the thought of, I almost nearly called him His Excellency, Dr. Rashid Popo, right?
Future Excellency.
Yeah. About
either an ambassador or president.
Yeah. About what we are currently experiencing on our roads. And I wanted you to also touch on that briefly.
Yeah, I will.
The societal deficiencies and the political blindness to those deficiencies, you know, and the fact that the young people who, in my estimation, must have, you know, must shoulder that responsibility to bring some of these things to the attention of government and to the attention of fellow young people, are failing to do that on the basis of parochialism. and on the basis of extreme partisanship. And I think that's a bane that we must immediately address.
It's true. Just as I agree with you in totality. I mean, we seem to be more partisan than patriotic. And that is why young people who have the godfathers, first of all, as a young person, it is now in the mentality that as a young person, if you want to be rich overnight, you have to join politics.
Clearly.
Two,
unfortunately,
yes,
so.
Unfortunately, too. Two, within the same political party, you must have a godfather. Three, you must reduce yourself to a manipulative tool for someone against another person in the same political party. Four, you must exhibit your mastery of political insults to be rewarded. And we have seen that in both political parties. We have seen how people have been appointed not because of their competence, but because of their mastery of political insults. Even within the same political party. We have seen how the same political party boys have insulted founders of political parties to be recognized. We have seen how the same political party boys have insulted former presidents in that political party to be recognized. So there is that culture of antagonism within and outside the various political parties. And that seems to drive partisanship. Unfortunately, the driving forces of the partisanship go beyond the partisan lines to affect national cohesion and national governance. So it is true. But Kwame, we need to also have what I call the reconfiguration of our mentality in relation to jobs. In fact, it is not a crime. If we all agree. For example, Honorable made a statement, and I was laughing. He wanted to help someone to become a farmer. And the person thinks that, no, it is demeaning to become a farmer in this country. I believe all of us have had opportunity to live outside. We have all had, we've all had the opportunity, at least, to experience life in Europe and in America. In those areas, those are the developed areas. If you are not rich, you can't be a farmer. True or false?
The
richest are the farmers.
in Netherlands are the farmers.
Yes, they are the farmers.
In the US.
In US. I have seen a farm in US that I cannot describe. I'm telling you, it takes helicopters to man the farm.
Then they'll tell you, we don't have the capital.
I'm telling you.
But you don't,
Look,
you don't start by getting the capital.
do you know the Africa World, the flies that we use? What's the name of the other company? Africa, apart from Africa World, we have another one.
Non-Antwerp. Passion.
The Passion, right? Those aircrafts. I'm telling you, these are aircrafts for farmers elsewhere.
Oh yeah.
I'm serious. These are aircraft for farmers elsewhere. But the person should not be blamed because that is the mentality here.
And they start by being small.
Yes, they start by being small. The person should be, and again, the person cherishes dependency mentality, not self-reliance. He feels comfortable for Honorable to continue to help him. And if Honorable, of course, that we know, gentleman, if he decides to go beyond the arena of gentility, Honorable will have every right and every capacity to use that person as a tool of destruction. In that case, the person will be, I'm telling you, he'll be willing. He will be a willing tool for destruction. So it is the mentality. As we blame leadership, as we blame the political culture, we must also blame our mentality. We need to understand that it is not at all a matter of so-called dignified jobs and so-called undignified jobs. That is not the case. In fact, I have read a story because of COVID. A pilot decided to go and serve in a bar. Now, the company has revived because of the successes we have chalked in our battle against COVID. And then the airlines want the pilot back. And he says, no, what he earns at the restaurant, as a restaurant attendant, is much more important. It's far better than what he earns as a pilot. So you can imagine, this is a society where no job is undermined. My brother, long before I joined the academia, I had long wished to be there. And when I was in media practice, I was hailed. When I was joining the academia, people were surprised. Why will you leave media for academia? Why? Because you are going to be a teacher. It doesn't matter your level, whether you are a lecturer, a tutor, a teacher. The generic name is teacher. You are a teacher. And people think that teaching is meant for the non-entities. In this country, you mention a certain profession and people will laugh at you. You mention another profession, people will hail you. That kind of mentality must be avoided. Because those selling dog chains, if dog chains are needed in this country, it is a source of need for some people. If we dignify that profession, and if we make it a job, a dignified job, definitely we will
not on our streets. They can find them a place to operate, but not on our streets.
That is the source of dignification.
Yeah.
When I say we should dignify it, first of all, we should think about where it is traded. We should think about how to do it in a safe environment. That's all part of what I mean by dignifying it, right? But if we think that, look, there are graduates in this country who think they must be employed by the state, and you can't blame them. Can you blame them? You cannot blame, because that's how they have been trained. And when we think that, yes, graduates should be creative and they should be able to create their jobs, then of course we have to go beyond that. It is the state that must support the graduate and create a conducive environment for the graduate to establish his or her own business. But if the state fails in that direction, and fails to even tell the graduate that he or she is supposed to look for his or her own job, what do you think? So it is up to all of us, particularly the government, to lead a crusade to reconfigure our mentality to suit the demands of contemporary society. And if we are able to do that, definitely we will be able to put patriotism over partisanship.
Thank you very kindly, Dr. Marazuki. You're still watching the News Preview segment here on Pan-African Television, and with me, Kwame Owusu Danso. So we're talking $80 million plan still opens biggest in West Africa. We've listened to Dr. Rashid Popo, we've listened to Dr. Marazuki. We're now about to listen to Dr. Kwekumato. Sir, please.
Thank you, after listening to my most respected colleagues here, I wouldn't want to repeat or go into the areas, but maybe we'll probably ask some rhetorical questions as well as submit my own opinion, especially when it comes to 1D, 1F. So the question is, I mean, to a large extent, I think there's a rhetorical question which is under contention, that whether truly this particular steel manufacturing company is under 1D, 1F. Then I ask, what is the role of 1D, 1F? Why were they established? What are they supposed to do when it comes to the establishment of companies? The last time I read the rationale for the establishment of the 1D, 1F initiatives, in fact, among the list of their existence, we have issues like they helping companies to register. If you have some initiatives, you can approach them to, I mean, about 90% of their role is advisory. Now, they also provide some assistance in terms of connecting you to financiers. And this is the enabling environment the academia and then society has been calling on successive governments to put in place. For me, 1D, 1F is an initiative which is normally just the normal mantra you're talking about, that look, establish an environment that will enable people with some specific needs to flourish in whatever area they are. That is how I see 1D, 1F. 1D, 1F is not going to give you money. 1D1F can initiate the process to connect you to financiers. And we all know that we live in a country where people start series of business. I mean, we have several business starters in this country. But when they get to the stage where they have to transition from a micro business to a macro business and even operate beyond the boundaries of Ghana, that is where we lack the capacity and the resources. And the 1D1F for me is timely because it has been those initiatives you have been recommending as lecturers in the classroom, the initiatives you have been recommending and been yearning for, that government should put up some of this. And the Ministry of Trade, to a large extent over the years, if you look at the rationale for establishing it, some of the miscellaneous responsibilities is to ensure that they have all these conditions in place to make business and viable, I mean, very viable for the average Ghanaian. Now, let's come back to the main issue here. Steel manufacturing company, I don't want to even limit it to this company alone. I am only interested in what successive government will be doing to provide jobs for the average Ghanaian. And not only for average Ghanaians, but even people who believe in Ghana and they want to associate themselves with the success story of Ghana. Our neighboring countries, Togo, Nigeria, if you think that like the way myself and you, we yearn to travel to the Western world, which has never been my dream. It has never been my dream to live outside the shores of Ghana. I would never put at the disposal of a foreign country my expertise, because they were not involved in my training. I would prefer glorifying myself, being a teacher. And I'm so much motivated by the fact that I have trained several accountants. I have trained several administrators. You know, whenever I watch this young man, Ishmael Aka, one of the oil and gas experts, ASEP, that young sharp guy, he was one of my students, and I'm so happy. Okay, I'm so motivated that I'm rendering this national service to the development of my country. Now, I am so much about the 1D1F initiative that as a country, we've gotten to a stage where we have to help our companies, indigenous companies, to leapfrog from wherever they use their personal efforts to the next level. Because it gets to a stage in business, you will need more capital to expand. That is the truth. So today, for me, it is good news, whether under 1D1F, whether it is B5's own initiative. They have established a company worth $80 million that they are going to provide jobs to the average Ghanaian. That myself and you, the meager income we earn, they will not always rely on us. Honorable, you see, I mean, I know, I saw the look on your face when you shared that unfortunate story with the young man you are trying to help. Sometimes you think they need help, but in actual fact, you cannot meet their goal, their expectation. You cannot meet it.
Yeah, but you see, but it's not everybody who is cut out to go into farming.
Yes.
We should also create the impression that everybody must go into farming.
Oh yes,
it's not everybody who is cut out to go into farming.
But you see,
maybe you would have opted for another thing instead of farming. You never know.
And that is what that will be put into at the disposal.
I want to beg 20 Ghana cedis to go and buy 2 bowls of maize, and somebody say take 4 acres, farm and keep it. And you say, don't take me back.
Yes.
Kwame, I don't know whether while growing up,
can you give me that black? No, I need it.
He could have opted. He could have decided to go to a different business, but he didn't.
What I'm saying is that myself, yourself, Dr. Kokumato, we need that land from
Yes.
Honorable, we are ready. We are ready. So we just offer us this land and we'll come.
Maybe when they go to
If only you could come and farm there and take care of the farm, I will happily give it to you.
We will come there and farm, but of course we'll get caretakers.
Of course. Yes. But Kwame, it's not be a bad idea.
A consumption of 3.
Let's move one weekend.
No, even this one, like I said, he knows that we are coming to storm his constituency. He knows. Even this one, he knows. So there's every tangible reason for us to go there.
Continue admitting students from the place because I will expose him to them. And Dog will also continue admitting students.
That's now actually not a bad idea.
You need a friend to the constituency.
This man is a smart man. But what is that? Beautifully carved, decorated butter system.
But you know, by me, I'm a sheikh. So I will only farm, I will not farm. What is it?
Yeah. That you are saying it, I think there'll be the next level. Like I know the next topic where we have to look at a national dialogue to assess the performance of this initiative. For me, when it comes to trying to domesticate like manufacturing companies as well as operationalize companies in order to discourage importation of everything that we consume in this country, I am for 1D, 1F.
All right.
It is an area we should adopt, not even only MPP. Yeah. I'll be very happy that the day in the future, because look, Kwame, let's face the fact. When we have gotten to in our democracy, it is MDC or MPP. It will be a serious magic. I mean, serious magic for another party to emerge. These two cousins, okay, they have been able to destabilize every political party in this country. In fact, the painful one is CPP. NDC have done everything possible to submerge CPP into their fold. Then NPP too have taken some, the residual. So in future, if NDC happens to probably be given the mandate again, 1D, 1F should remain. Maybe they should move beyond 1D, 1F to 1D, 2Fs. Yes. Or 5Fs. So that in every district, we will discourage this, the ravaging effect of urbanization on the development of the hinterland. Yeah. If every district has about 5 factories, people will not be, trekking to the urban cities in search of jobs. Now, Kwame, the most serious issues has to do with the capacity of the 1D, 1F factories, especially the foreign ones. What are they bringing on board? Are they only establishing the companies, or they are leaving some capacity for our indigenous people? Right. Because when you put up a steel company, and you have Ghanaians being employed, and at the end of the day, the Ghanaian cannot be used to also create the same company, then there's a problem with it. Remuneration, and then also whether there's availability of electricity, because you see, the steel industry relies so much. Are we creating a special?
Valco is an example.
I'm telling you, but you see, come with the last one. This is just to correct a statement made by Honorable. In relation to IMF and World Bank classification, please, I think it has come out. Ghana has not been downgraded. IMF has not, they've come out. IMF has their own classification when it comes to the performance, monitoring the fiscal performance of countries. They have 3 major classifications: that's advanced economies, and the emerging market economies, and low-income economies. And Ghana has been part of the low-income economic classification of IMF all this while. Now, for the World Bank, we transitioned from the low-income country to the lower middle-income country. And we are still there because our gross national income has not changed. It doesn't require that level of downgrading back to the low-income country. I mean, this is the point I wanted to make, because IMF has come out. We have also verified it, because I went to their website to check it. I went to the World Bank website to check it, and we are still intact. Until further notice, I think we will have to go by that definition. But please, you see, Honorable, I like the way Honorable advances his argument. It's not like the normal political, activist. He tries to connect it with national development. When I hear IMF projecting that our debt to GDP by 2025 will be hitting 85%, they are not probably crafting their own figures. It is our own projections. Because when I pick the national budget of Ghana and I analyze our projections from 2021 to 2024, 2025, I am able to predict our debt to GDP ratio. And from what they have, what you have presented, that is a reality. That until something changes, so you see, we should be worried as Ghanaians that IMF is not telling us what will be, but they use our own figures, our projections. We are projecting a certain level of debt to GDP. We are projecting a certain level of fiscal deficit, deficit. And when you analyze these figures, we are heading towards, at the end of 2021, it will be no news that Ghana's debt to our total debt will hit 300 billion. Because we are already in 291.
And you're happy about that?
I am not happy. No, I'm not happy.
No, because I thought that
I am not happy.
With a kind of narrative.
No, I am not happy.
You are espousing. I thought that maybe it's
no, I am not happy. But I see,
in conclusion,
debts in finance are not bad. Debts in finance are not bad. What you use the debt for, and the cost of debt should be another level of worry for every Ghanaian. Because do you know that now, the composition of our debt, the concessionary loans, which has its own, pluses and negatives, are you okay? It's not dwindling because the associated cost of concessionary loans are a little bit lower. We are now going to the bond market where debt becomes so expensive. We are talking about 51% of our debt being debt from investors, from the financial market, which is more expensive. That is why, what do you call it? The interest we pay on our debts to our total revenue is increasing on daily basis. All right. And that will be a cause for worry for each and every Ghanaian.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Dr. Rashid Pepo has to run. Our time is almost up, but I think we need to touch on one last issue before we wrap up. I'm starting with you, Dr. Marzuko, on the dialogue on illegal mining opening today. Sir, please.
Thank you. I think the dialogue itself is good. The ideation is good. The intentionality, fine, but the honesty. Because the illegal mining is only one of the numerous sources of environmental terrorism in this country.
That's the right word. Environmental terrorism.
Environmental terrorism, sometimes with subtle state support, based on partisanship. So we are not going to talk much on it because of the time. I am only looking at it from two perspectives, attitudinal and political. From the attitudinal perspective, we all have a responsibility to ensure the protection of our environment. And within the confines of the political perspective, it is up to the state to convince Ghanaians, and I'm referring to the government, to convince Ghanaians that it has the political will to enforce countermeasures against what I describe as environmental terrorism. And if we are able to do that, definitely the future will be bright for all of us.
Thank you very much. Environmental terrorism, briefly.
Can we see?
Yes, sir.
Whenever we seem to ignore societal agony, the remnants of this phenomenon will metamorphose into some public canker. These are the facts. And when it becomes a public canker, then it makes it expensive to eradicate. It's not true? And that's where we are, as Galamsey. National dialogue is eminent at this point in time. Kwame, this is the platform, the forum, which will give myself, yourself, and the average guy the opportunity to express the way we understood, we perceived this agenda by the government for the past 3 to 4 years.
Right.
Now, what are we talking about here? I, for once, will say that, look, for all these years, we have been talking about Galamsey. Personally, I did not really sit to even look at the implication, the negative implication of Galamsey until we began this fight. When it has been confirmed that due to Galamsey, most of our water bodies in the hinterland, that's even supplies to even some urban cities, are dying out because of the activities of these unscrupulous people. Then we began with a certain mindset that let's fight them physically. And we all know what happens when you want to fight people physically without like the necessary other policies, stringent policies to get things done, and also be devoid of the human interference. The problem we have identified over the years is that the solution has been over-concentrated on the government and the party in power and the leadership, as well as partisan activities. And we have stated on this platform, I think that one we are in sync, that, you see, until we have good policies in place, politicians cannot fight corruption. We have to help them to fight corruption. You have to do everything possible to help them to fight corruption. So for me, this dialogue is very, very important, and it will give us the next level. Probably it will transition to the next level where stringent policies will be put in place, devoid of human interference. We need that policy which will prevent people from defrauding the states. We need each and everyone on board. We are talking about the community. We are talking about the chiefs. We are talking about the people. Often than not, Kwame, we always point fingers at the leaders. Yes, indeed, everything ends on the leader.
Yeah.
However, the people's mindset, who gave these Galamsey activists the land entitlement, whenever they are arrested, some of them have genuine land documents. So it's now, the next level to tackling this problem goes beyond the lamentation. But let's now put all the issues. We know, Kwame, today, if I'm to ask you, we know there are political activists who are involved in this. Is it not true?
True.
It's not news.
Yeah.
We know that there are very, very affluent people in this country who are Galamseyers. The national dialogue today should be addressing these issues as to how those people should be treated. How are we going to manage this situation? Else we'll continue to be lamenting. But I can only pray for Honorable Jinapo, the new minister,
So as for him, they will do well.
to be strict. I mean, you know, initially I thought the president probably had assigned a task that probably goes beyond this young man. But I now resonate with the rationale behind that. This is a youth who still have about 30 to 40 years ahead of him. And for that matter, whenever he wants to do something, he'll be thinking about the next 20 years.
Absolutely.
And I hope that, so it was not out of place that he said, my first thing, he mentioned it during his vetting, that look, the first is to conduct a national dialogue, to know where we are.
I think they are all conducting national dialogues.
Yeah.
And I think it's a very,
Very good
stuff.
initiative. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Let me just say something.
Yeah.
It's not just to
Yeah.
counter you.
That's okay. That's okay. That's okay.
Academic
That's okay.
colleagues, so there is academic solidarity.
That's okay. That's okay.
You know, he has said that everything is on the leadership, and we assume that every problem must be solved by the leadership, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is because that situation exists because of the same leadership. The leadership have been able to create an impression that we are witnessing, we are all subject to what I describe as political supremacy. And if we all believe, because first of all, even on their campaign platforms, they create the impression that they can solve every problem. You see? And then they make it clear that if you support them, you will be blessed. If you don't support them, you will be cursed. And it is the case. So if there is any issue at all, we have to hold them responsible.
Absolutely.
So they have made that impression of political supremacy or partisan supremacy in our situation. Unlike other jurisdictions, just look at this headline, Kwame. Former Prime Minister David Cameron under investigation over loans. And yes, it cannot happen in Ghana. You see, this is an environment where leadership cannot claim to be supreme, where leadership can be held responsible, where leadership is expected to be accountable. And if you leave the leadership role, you will still be called upon to answer criminal charges if the need arises. So if we can also adopt such a political culture, definitely we won't be blaming leadership for every problem confronting us.
Thank you very much.
Why can't this happen?
That's a very good question too. That's a very good question too.
Where there was an allegation against a former president, then a special prosecutor comes to say that it is because he's a leader of a party, so I cannot invite him for questioning. It is the mentality.
That's exactly what we are saying.
The ability to question leadership.
Yes.
But the point is that when you live in a country, and you see, look, let's face facts.
Yeah.
If you live in a country where leaders feel they are demigods,
yes,
where they feel that it is not in their place to be accountable to anybody, and nobody does anything about it, because when you talk about it, he will get some political foot soldiers to come and support him against you, and then he will become NDC MPP.
Yes.
How do you expect? Imagine, let's assuming without admitting that Nana Akufo-Addo leaves office, and then there's there's a revelation later on. I'm not saying that's what it is, but I'm just using that as an example. That there's a revelation later on that he was involved in some corrupt activities, right? So on the basis of that, they want to investigate Nana Akufo-Addo. Do you know what will happen in this country?
I'm telling you.
You have no idea what will happen in this country. Thank you very much, Dr. Kwakumaoto. Thank you very much, Dr. Mazu. Thank you for watching today's edition of Good Morning Africa. My name is Kwame Owusu Danso. Look, I think that they have said it all. We have a responsibility, much as we know that government also has a responsibility. And we must ensure that we strategically do things that will inure to the benefit of the younger generation. Think about yourself first, and think about the nation as well. All these leaders that we have, these political leaders, these Nana Akufo-Addo and his peers, they will one day die and leave us. We will be the ones to suffer for the decisions that they've taken today. So if there's Danso and you don't want to talk about it, you will be the one and your children will be the one to suffer. If there's too much borrowing, less development, and you don't want to talk about it, you and your children will pay for it. If there are no jobs being created, the people who are walking on the streets of Accra, unemployed, will start attacking you and I, by which time those old men would have been dead and gone. So let's think about our nation first and do things that will benefit this generation and the ones that are yet to come. Please, Ghana first. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye-bye.